Hey, back with another video. This time I'm going to talk about that left centre mid position, the position that Xhaka is playing at the moment. Just talk about some of the requirements of that role, what he brings to that position. I will look at some of the players that we currently have who can offer something in that position, and then I'll look at targets in the transfer market that can offer something similar as well. So let me get into it. So that left centre mid position that we have right now from Xhaka, that Xhaka is playing at the moment, for me, as you can see, we played at 4-3-3. We have the two tens, the Odegaard and Xhaka in that position, and they're required to attack those spaces. Let me just quickly just point that out immediately. We have the two tens here. Xhaka is meant to play here, and Odegaard is meant to be there. These are so this is the left side of the position. This is what the role. This is the position that he's meant to attacking the channels over there. So for me, from what I can see in there, what's required in that position, you need to have great ball reception. What I mean by that is just the ability to be able to put yourself in positions between markers, between defenders. This is something that Ozil was able to do really well, where he would place himself in between two defenders, so they're not able to know who's picking up who. So he stands in between there, and then he can receive the pass. So I think the first thing you need to have to play in that kind of position, because remember, you're playing in the final third, you're going to have a lot more markers around you, a lot more pressure around you. I think what you need is great ball reception, just spatial awareness, understanding of the position, understanding of what's around you. Obviously, scanning, looking around you to make sure that you're not being pressed from behind and you don't end up losing the ball. So having great ball reception is important for that position. The next thing, again, receiving between lines. You have to be able to receive the ball well between lines. When I say you need to be able to receive the ball well between lines, you need to be able to receive it quickly, touch, turn immediately. You receive, touch, you turn. Because what you have to realize is when you're in the final third and you're linking up, creating combinations and things like that, and you wanna quickly make a turn and get ball into the final third, you can't receive the ball and turn in a way whereby you're allowing the opposition to organize well or reorganize. If you receive well and you turn immediately and you start attacking space, you can catch defenders you can catch defenders on the wrong side. So you can catch defenders facing the other way. You quickly turn and then you have defenders behind, and immediately you've already broken their line already, and you're in the final third, and you've got their first line, you've broken their first line, and you're immediately facing the defenders. But if you're receiving and you're having to receive and then wait and then turn, then automatically you're giving them the opportunity to reorganize again. So the quicker you're able to receive the first one I mentioned was ball reception. When you put yourself in the right position and you have great ability to receive the ball between lines, then you'll be able to turn and immediately face the opposition and face their defense, and then that way you're not facing 8 players behind the ball. Instead, you're facing just four guys behind the ball. So the quicker you're able to receive the ball, then the less players you end up facing. So these are two key attributes you need to have to play that position. Another thing that is important as well is the ability under pressure. Again, you're playing in the final third. You're not playing in deep and in your own half. Therefore, you're gonna have markers. You're gonna have defenders who are pushing up and pressing. You're gonna have fullbacks who at times are gonna compact the central areas. You're gonna have their midfielders, depending on if they're playing a 4-4-2, if they're playing 2 centre mids or if they're playing 3 centre mids. You're gonna have midfielders compacting that area. So you have to be able to receive the ball under pressure. Take for example, Gabriel Jesus receiving the ball for the first Bournemouth goal. He received that ball under pressure, controlled it from the air, spin around, turn. All of that showed great ball reception. He knew where to position himself. It showed great ability to receive between lines, and it also showed great ability to receive under pressure. Those are the kind of key things you need to be able to play great combination football in the final third. And I think these are good requirements for that left centre position. And again, as I mentioned, receive and turn. That's quick. That helps you to be able to immediately break lines and attack a disorganized opposition. If you're receiving and you're taking too long to turn, you're not going to be attacking a disorganized opposition. You're going to be attacking an opposition that's been given time to quickly reorganize and get themselves back in position. This is how, when you're receiving your turn quickly, that's how you catch teams off guard and you create good chances. Another thing that I feel is required from that role as well is to be productive in the final third. Again, we're seeing Xhaka show this season. Obviously, he's contributed to 3 goals in the first 3 games, which is good. So that's what you're gonna be required to be productive in the final third if you're playing that position, because you're receiving in a half turn, you're receiving between lines, you have the freedom to attack the box. Therefore, you should be getting your numbers up as well. Another thing is late runs into the box. We had a player, Aaron Ramsey, in the past who showed the ability to play this position to a T. He knew how to time his runs into the box. He knew how to ensure that he was getting into the box whereby there was no markers. Nobody was seeing him make these shadow runs. He would run off or run behind the defenders, make late runs, just arrive in the box. We've got Smith Rowe, who shows great ability to do this, and this season we're seeing Xhaka be able to do this. So that's another attribute that you need to be able to play this position. And also another thing, again, when you do receive the ball in this position, as I mentioned in the previous video about the Bournemouth game and creating chances in the far post, when you do receive over here, one thing that I feel is required from a player that plays in that position is the ability to make these crosses from here into the box. So because at times you're not gonna be able to make these runs all the way in there. You're not gonna be able to. The winger's not always gonna be able to do that. But what the winger can do is occupy this player. Yeah, for you, the striker can occupy this player, and when you're marked, or let's make an assumption as if this player is in here marking you two, and is pushing you centrally. When you have a player in here that can cut back in here, just cut back and then make a cross into the box. A cross whereby, let's say, Gabby Jesus is making this run here and pulling this centre back here. Then you have a late run from Odegaard, or you have a late run from Xhaka in the back post. You need to have this player needs to be able to make this sort of crosses to the back post. When you can make this kind of cross to the back post, then you can that creates another way whereby we can create chances. It creates another lane or another opportunity for us to create chances. So it makes us less predictable, because then we can create chances from multiple situations, and we can score again from multiple situations. So this is another avenue for us to create chances. Being able to cut back in here and cross that ball into the back post and scoring from there. Let that ball either go into the 10, go into the winger, or even if Gabby Jesus is the one in the back post over there. But we need someone to be able to make that cross. That's something that I feel like is required from that position, as well as the ability to interchange with the left back and the left wing, as we've already seen happen this season with Xhaka, Martinelli, and Zinchenko rotating positions on that left hand side. Martinelli coming inside, we've seen that so much this season already. We've seen Xhaka again. I've mentioned it so many times. We've seen Martinelli come inside, Xhaka go on the outside, Zinchenko come over there. We've seen Zinchenko be the one who's offering width on that side. Martinelli going in the box. We've seen Martinelli coming in there already. Xhaka occupying that space. We've seen Zinchenko occupying that space. We've seen that interchanging quite a lot. But in order to make that kind of interchange, what is required is to be able to have the ability when you switch positions, be that switching positions to the wing area, you need to be able to make crosses into the box. If you're in the half space, you need to be able to make those crosses into the back post, as I mentioned. And if you're the one that's deep, you need to be able to make the passes into the final third. So you have to be technically comfortable in all these positions. So being technically able to perform in all these three positions is also required of that left centre mid position. So I feel like these are all the things that's required to be able to play in that position. So when I look at our team and I look out for the future, at the moment Xhaka is playing. I'll give Xhaka the credit. He's playing that position as well as he could, because he's smart. He's tactically very good. For me, I don't think he's got the physical profile or the technical quality to play that role, but tactically he's a very intelligent player. So he's playing that role to the best of his ability, and he's showing that he understands what's required of the position he understands what's required of our system as a whole, where he knows where every player needs to be positioned, and you can see him on the pitch positioning the other players, telling them to make the right runs. So tactically he's really good. So I'm not going to dismiss what he's offering in that position, because I think it's good, and I think we also need competition anyways. Even if we bring someone in, that player needs competition. We can't just have that player being guaranteed a spot. We need that player to be competing with Xhaka, and Xhaka pushing that player, and then pushing each other to perform at their best. So the players, I do think, if we look in the transfer window, there's two players that I'll speak on. I'll speak on Tielemans. For me, I like this player really. I like this player a lot, because for me, I know people speak about his what's it called, his mobility and all that sort of things, and they feel like he's not able to track the runners and stuff like that. But for me, I feel like the way we play, the way we're very compact in our system, it covers flaws. For example, Xhaka, his flaws hasn't been under Arteta. We haven't seen too much of his flaws being exposed, because he's not playing in the deep position. Partey's playing that role. He's not being required. Xhaka's flaws are his mobility, in terms of tracking runners receiving under pressure, and stuff like that. And these things haven't been exposed because he's not being put in those kind of positions. He's not being put in a team that's playing end to end football, basketball football. He's not being put in that. He's not having to keep making runs back and forth because we have control. We're controlling games. We're pressing from the front. And we're very close to each other. So he doesn't have to defend a massive space. All he has to do is defend a really small space. And when you ask Xhaka to defend a small space, he can do that. When you ask Xhaka to defend what's in front of him, he can do that. What he's not able to do is to defend what's going on, what runs behind him, runs they have to see. What he's not able to do is make back and forth end to end runs because he doesn't have the pace, he doesn't have the mobility to do that. So I feel like in our system, the way our system is built, and is controlled and is shit and are organized, and all the players are in very small lines. In like there's no too much gaps between lines. The defenders push up, midfielders push up, and the strikers are pressing and ensuring that there's not gaps in between lines. So the opposition can't. So we're not playing end to end football, and and he's not having to defend massive space. So I don't think Tielemans is going to have that issue where he's not going to have to be making end to end. Of course, you're going to have situations like that, and you'd rather have someone who has the legs and the mobility to do all that things. But he's not going to be normally on a normal situation. He's not going to be put in those kind of positions all the time. So therefore, all we need to speak about is his advantages, what he brings. So Tielemans, what Tielemans will bring, he's got great shooting from outside the box already. So that's already a threat immediately. He can shoot the ball from outside the box already. So therefore, oppositions are going to be aware when they see that he's on the edge of the box. They're going to start moving around, which is going to create more opening. They're going to come close to him, which will create opening. Another thing that Tielemans does well as well, remember the cross I mentioned to the back post? He's able to make those crosses to the back post. He's got great first-time passes to the back post. He doesn't have to adjust or anything like that. He can quickly make a pass into the back post easily. He can make a pass into the back post with his first touch. He doesn't have to control it. He doesn't have to do anything. He can just swerve into the back post. So he's got great passing. I've mentioned before on Twitter, I've said, for me, he reminds me of players like Fabregas, whereby we haven't had a player who makes long passes from deep areas into the box. Players like stuff like what De Bruyne does. Stuff like what Fabregas used to do. Those kind of long range passes from deep into the box. We haven't had a player that's able to do that. Tielemans can offer this. This is why I like him a lot. He can play those passes from deep. So we don't always have to get on the edge of the box to play these little small passes. Yes, of course, you want to be able to do that. And he can also do that as well. But we don't have to always do that. And Tielemans offers this. So when the opposition are sitting deep, or when we're in the transition, he can play that long pass all the way into the box. He can play that pass around the corner all the way into Xhaka. We've seen him do this to us, where he played a pass that split our defense and went straight into Vardy, who scored. So we've seen passes that he can play long range passes that are that are meant to create chances, not just switching of play. Because there's a difference between a deep player who just plays passes to switch play, and a deep player who plays passes to split lines into the box. This is what Tielemans can do, and this is what I think he'll bring to the team. He's not the most mobile. He's not going to run into the channel, make consistent run into the channels, but he will make late runs onto the edge of the box, and he can shoot. So that makes him a threat on the edge of the box, and it makes him a creative threat and a goal scoring threat as well. That's why I like Tielemans a lot. Another player that I like is Paqueta from Lyon. Him as well. Now he's got the mobility. So you're gonna see what we're gonna see from him is this: he's left-footed and he's got the mobility. So with Paqueta, if we had Paqueta in this position, this is a player that's gonna be able to, when he's in this position due to his mobility, he can attack the box instantly and play cutbacks. He can attack the box and shoot. He can switch with the winger, and he can make runs past the fullback, and he can make crosses into the box to the other players. So he's a player who, due to his mobility, is able to do more in the final third than Tielemans. I feel like Tielemans is the better passer, but Paqueta is someone who's more mobile, who's going to be able to make more runs into the box, run into the wide areas, and cross the ball into the box. When he's in the channel, he can attack the box a lot more because he's more mobile. So they've got two different qualities, but both will offer something great to us. I think these are two players that can change, that can improve us a lot. They don't have, nobody has to be, we don't need to have, you don't have to have guaranteed stars. He can compete with Xhaka. Xhaka is experienced. Xhaka's got great tactical understanding, so they can rotate with him. It's not about who's not good or who's good. It's about having great strength and depth. And I feel like if we have Xhaka and Tielemans or Paqueta competing for one position on the pitch, that improves us greatly. If we're able to drop from, if we're dropping from Tielemans or Paqueta to Granit Xhaka, who's on the bench, or let's say for example they have to rest or we have to rotate them, that just means that there's the drop from the first 11 to the bench. It's not huge, which will be key to for us to be consistent. If you can be consistent, if the players on the bench are bringing the right quality or bringing the same kind of quality as your first team, and that's what Xhaka will bring, or Tielemans and Paqueta, that's what they will bring to the team. If we're rotating those kind of players for one position, that's what they'll bring to the team. And then other players, I feel at the moment, I don't feel like they're ready to play those positions yet. But for me, Smith Rowe has the quality to play that position as well. This is long term. He has to learn more about making himself. One thing he doesn't do well is making himself available in a game. He's often making runs off the ball. He plays more like a forward. If he wants to play in that midfield role, he has to have a midfield man. So he has to make himself available to the player on the ball. You don't always have to just make runs into the box all the time. You can drop deep and make yourself available to help with build up play. That's something that he doesn't, because at times when he's playing, he can just seem to be always on the edge of the box, trying to get into the box, playing almost like a striker, almost like an outlet. But he needs to. But in that position, I feel like long term, when he has more understanding of the role and he plays that position a lot more and gaining more experience, he'll be able to understand that position a lot more because he has the quality. He's got all the things I mentioned from before: the ball reception, receiving between lines, ability under pressure, receiving and turning, being productive in the final third. All of these things, um, Edmund Smith Rowe, he has that in his locker. He's able to do all these things. All he has to understand is just the understanding of a midfielder, the mindset of a midfielder. That's the only thing that's missing. Long term, I feel like he's gonna be one of the players that can play in that position. Charlie Patino is another one as well. I feel like he already understands. He already knows how to play that position already. He's great. All these things I mentioned that Smith Rowe can do, he can do that as well. And he's naturally a centre mid as well. So he already knows how to play the position already. All we need from him is just experience. I feel like this once he goes in his loan, he looks like he's playing consistently for Blackpool as well. So the more he plays there and the more he develops there and learns more about the pro football and builds into his frame, because he's got quite a lean and tall frame as well and builds into his frame. I feel like that's another player that can play in that position as well. So, and then Fabio Vieira is another one again that can also play in that position. Based on videos that we've watched him in, watched of him, I want to see more of him in the first team as well. So we've got quite a few players in already at the club that can play it. But right now we just need to establish our first options right now, and I think having Xhaka and one of Tielemans or Paqueta as our two centre mids for that one position would improve the club greatly. We will improve our chances greatly and improve the team. Anyways, thank you. That's the video done with right there. The next video I will talk about the wingers.